Hello, everyone. Kathy Rose here, and I wanted to talk to you about the mid-month update for April because this is such a gigantic month and we're in such an amazing pivot point in consciousness. So I wanted to just chat with you about what's going on with the full moon and the upcoming Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and the post-eclipse integration. So let's dive in and take a look here. So we're in the process right now of integrating the Aries eclipse that took place on April 8th. And I've mentioned this before in my videos. You've seen this, but if we just focus on three words, confidence, courage, and commitment, the commitment part is really going to get activated when we get to the full moon in Scorpio coming up later this month. But the confidence and the courage was activated intensely by this Aries eclipse. And it's time now to integrate that and then commit to it, to live with a new level of being brave, activating the inner spiritual warrior. And that also includes knowing that you are up to the task of handling what life brings. This is what the eclipse triggered in all of us. And those energy waves are going to be flowing through us for quite a long time. And I think that's really beautiful, personally. And I have a quote here. And fascinatingly, if you watch my Maverick podcast, you will see that recently I had actress Jane Lynch on as my guest. And in the very first time that Jane did an astrology consultation with me, I asked her, how do you handle bad reviews? How do you handle criticism as an actress? I don't think she's had very many bad reviews in her life because she's so gifted. But, you know, all actresses, anybody who performs has to be able to handle criticism, as we all do, right? And she said, I have this great quote by Georgia O'Keeffe, and it's become my mantra, and it helps me enormously as an actress. And as you see on screen, it says, I have already settled it for myself. So flattery and criticism go down the same drain, and I am quite free. And I really love this quote. It has become one of my favorites. I have already settled it for myself. Now, I'm bringing this up because this epitomizes what the Aries eclipse is trying to trigger in us. I am quite free. I am impervious to what other people think because I love myself unconditionally, because I know who I am, because I've settled it for myself. So thank you to dear Jane Lynch for letting me know about this. And of course, I made it into a meme and added my own mandala, but meditate on this, memorize it, bring it up when you feel vulnerable, when your confidence wavers, when somebody gives you a sidelong look that makes, that triggers you to feel bad, bring it up and settle it for yourself. So this is all related to integrating the Aries eclipse. And then the next thing we're moving toward now is, of course, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which is already in action. Everybody, well, many astrologers are only focusing on the exact date, which is April 20th. But Jupiter conjunct Uranus, these two planets have been working together for the last few months. And the exact point is April 20th. It'll still be in play somewhat in May. And this is a meeting between the two planets that happens about every 13 years or so. In fact, what I find interesting is last time we had Jupiter-Uranus conjunct was 2010 and 2011, and it was wavering between 27 degrees Pisces and 0 Aries, which is absolutely interesting because we right now have Neptune at 29 Pisces. So it was very close to triggering that same point. And we're going to have Saturn-Neptune conjunct next year at 0 Aries. And at that last time Jupiter-Uranus were conjunct, we were in the throes of integrating social media as a daily routine. 2010, 2011, that's when things were absolutely exploding in our culture around living through the lens of social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They had been launched a few years earlier, but that's when it became wired into our brain. So that was fascinating. And now when we see it Jupiter-Uranus conjunct in Taurus, now in 2024, we get to integrate something new. I think it is going to be connecting with the stillness of the now, as I have mentioned many, many, many times, because that's Taurus. Taurus is a fixed earth sign, and it's related to security. Now, the vulnerability is to base security on what's happening in the outer world, as in how much money you have in your bank account or how much approval you're getting from others. But security really needs to be within, like I said with that Georgia O'Keeffe quote in the prior slide. So this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus is teaching us how to be stable in our sense of inner security. And part of that is learning to be in the now, which is a Taurus paradigm. How can you gather your atoms into stillness in this moment and really be present on a consciousness level? I think that's where the breakthrough is, because you can't tap higher levels of consciousness if you are busy focusing on the future or the past. You have to be present. And of course, this is always, anytime Uranus is around, it is a release of stagnation, and Jupiter expands that. So look forward to this and understand that there's some beautiful energy coming up or flowing through the entire month, which then a few days after this exact conjunction on April 20th, we have the full moon in Scorpio. And I wanted to take some time to talk about this. Of course, I did focus on this in the April forecast video, but I wanted to remind you and bring it up into consciousness again, because this full moon between Sun in Taurus and Moon in Scorpio, and of course they are in a T-square with Pluto. You see how this is marked on the screen in red. These are all fixed signs, and the fixed modality brings our emphasis into commitment, which is why earlier when I said integrating the eclipse, confidence, courage, and commitment. Well, this is the commitment part, because that's what the fixed sign does. It likes to form routines. It likes to engage in repetition. And Taurus is about creating new habits. So this particular full moon can empower you in so many ways, because with Pluto being square, it is saying your management of power. Are you able to open to the universe and really open your crown chakra and let the flow of empowerment move through you? And are you able to handle that without going into ego or control or tyranny or all those misuse of power modalities that can happen? So are you able to be an empowered soul? And part of that is, of course, learning that you are a manifester, that your thoughts, that your emotions, that your actions help to shape your reality, the self-fulfilling prophecy, as you've heard me say many, many, many times. But committing to that, creating the habit of directing your energy in a new way. So this full moon in Scorpio is about focus. Where are you going to focus your attention? I wrote about that in my April newsletter. If you are subscribed to my newsletter, I talked about quantum spirituality and the observer effect, and what you observe comes into focus. What reality are you going to observe for yourself and for the world? So this is a beautiful opportunity And I would suggest around the full moon time that you are engaging with the power part within you silently, easily. And really, power doesn't mean that you have to force it or push it. In this case, it's not forcing at all. It is opening. It is relaxing. It's taking that deep breath and allowing this to flow through. So this is happening while Jupiter and Uranus are still conjunct, and it's happening with this big group of Pisces planets, Saturn, Mars, Neptune. Mars, Neptune are close enough to be conjunct. Mars is moving beyond the conjunction with Saturn. And by the way, earlier in April, I'm wondering how you felt the Saturn-Mars conjunction, how you're integrating that, because it was all over social media if you are reading astrology posts, and mostly it was fear-based limitation. A lot of astrologers were programming people to expect terrible things with Saturn Mars conjunct. And it really distressed me to see all that written. Personally, for me, I used that energy to get an enormous amount of physical work done. I've been busy finishing the landscaping project in our yard. We bought new construction a year ago with no plants at all in the front or the back of the house. And so I have planted more than 100 plants, digging in hard soil, finding bricks beneath the soil. It's hard labor. And I did a major project all so far for the entire month of April, working, achieving, channeling that energy into productivity. And that's the best way to use Mars Saturn. So I'm wondering how you experienced it. And I am hoping that if you read any of the limiting, scary, negative posts programming you or implanting the idea to expect frustration or problems, I'm hoping you didn't listen. And if you did, please review and understand that what was planted in your mind probably came about because it was planted in your mind. And isn't that fascinating? So be very aware of what you allow to be imprinted in your consciousness. And I'm saying this because that's part of the full moon in Scorpio, the focus, the commitment, and the true understanding of just how incredibly empowered you are. Mercury is still retrograde during this full moon, but it ends the retrograde shortly after, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So one other aspect about this full moon in Scorpio is committing to your own energy of integrity and ethics. And it is time right now to commit to impeccable ethics in life, impeccable ethics in your consciousness. Next year, in 2025, when we have Saturn Neptune conjunct at 0 Aries, which is called the Aries point, your impeccable ethics will shine. You will be highly visible for that behavior. So get into the habit now. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. Commit to that deep within you, because that opens the door to empowerment. Live that frequency. That is part of this full moon in Scorpio, because the shadow side of Scorpio can go into revenge and grudge holding and all that nasty stuff. But the higher level of Scorpio is quite stunning and beautiful. And we don't hear much about the higher level of Scorpio because astrology by social media loves to focus on the nasty parts of all the signs. But certainly the higher level is this integrity and impeccable ethics. So keep that in your consciousness. And on April 25th, so in the later half of the month, you're seeing so much is happening. You're seeing the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, the full moon in Scorpio, and then Mercury ends the retrograde in Aries, which is why I have the image of the red tea kettle boiling, because as Mercury's been retrograding in Aries, we've been processing, we've been thinking, we've been moving things around in our consciousness. And as it ends the retrograde, it gets to be released. The tea kettle is going to whistle symbolically. I mean, I think this is wonderful to think in this way. Energy is going to be dispersed and released, and people may speak their truth. And I would just simply say, if you feel the need to speak your truth, add some love to it. Of course, that's just my opinion. You can do it however it's right for you. I just prefer a bit of harmony and grace. You know, there's quite a bit of vulgar energy in the world. Just peruse social media, especially Twitter. Oh my God, in the astrological community, it's curse word after curse word. Maybe that doesn't offend you or bother you. It's probably my generation, but I would love to see a little bit more grace and harmony. But we can still be symbolically the tea kettle that's whistling, making some noise, speaking up, saying what we need to say, but we can do it with grace. As a matter of fact, the t-shirt I'm wearing, you can see some of the words, and it says, "In a world where you can be anything, be kind." And I wanted to wear this t-shirt today because the words remind me. So Mercury will now start to reactivate the degrees that it visited during the retrograde, and it will do that until the middle part of May, and then it will enter Taurus. So very, very, very productive time. My final thoughts for this mid-April update. This is absolutely your time to love and approve of yourself. Go back to the meme with Georgia O'Keeffe. I've settled it for myself. So flattery and criticism go down the same drain and I am free. Well, part of that is to learn to support yourself unconditionally, unfailingly, consistently. Commit to giving yourself a hug every once in a while. Whether you do it physically, to give yourself the hug, or you do it in your mind. Love yourself. Pat yourself on the back. You better believe the hardcore work I did in my yard with some pain issues that I have in some of my joints, but I did it anyway. I was absolutely patting myself on the back and saying, "Good job, way to go." And now I get to go out and look at all this spectacular work I did, and I not only appreciate the yard, but I congratulate myself on my effort, on my commitment, on my focus. We need to be doing this. It is okay to love yourself and appreciate yourself. So if you've ever had any programming that says it's not okay to do that because that's arrogance, and there are some religious programming that plants that seed. I've had many clients with that. Well, maybe you want to consider changing that, because it is okay to unconditionally support yourself no matter what. Be there for yourself. These are my final thoughts for the second half of April, and I think they're beautiful. So here we go. And I hope that the eclipse was a delightful experience for you. It should have been. Courage, commitment, and confidence in the airwaves right now. Integrate this into every cell of your body. Live it and be happy and joyous. And I look forward to seeing you for the May forecast. And bye for now. Much love. Many blessings.